Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my... Now, without further ado, we may...
So this is what it is. Yes, you deserve praise for the... Do not forget, however, that I am Focalor, the god of justice, the embodiment...
May I interpret these words as your refute? In that case, you will have the opportunity to defend your honor through a duel.
You would draw your blade against a god? I see. It seems like you have made up...
Paimon can't believe it.
What the heck is going on?
Wow, how odd.
Lady Furina, what is the meaning of this?
It would seem that there has been a misunderstanding.
Looking for excuses again.
I raised my hands just now to indicate my acceptance of the trial. I will admit that I'm sorry, everyone. I was unable to protect the... You are not the only ones to be disappointed in me. But now, it is time for I, Furina, will use this trial to show the world the true meaning of this time. Applaud and rejoice. One of the most outrageous... Mark my words. This shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of fun.
Woohoo!
Oh, now we're making history.
Why does it feel like Furina just took over the whole thing? Like, come on! Also, even though she's still acting super dramatic, she is...
All right, then. Who will be
The court asks the prosecutor to please take the stand.
Is that so? Very well. Also, please allow me to ask, just how much work did you do to force...
Well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
I can go over the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather straightforward and easy.
Navia, the president of the Spina...
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members, waiting for the perfect... The people's resentment against their Archon has been building as more and more of the prophecy is fulfilled. Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something like that occurred, you would likely... So
you mean... the ones who scoured the...
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate...
That's right. That house was a magic box, rather than someone's
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first performed at the opera, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson and Arenes. Was an Archon in... My thanks, Furina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off...
You're welcome?
Of course, this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The House of the Hearth spent a massive amount of labor in Mora to pull this off. We had to select a location, construct the giant magic box, dig a tunnel, and open up a path through the water. It was
So, in other words, the earthquake that we felt within...
That's right. It wasn't a sign of another disaster to come.
Then, I can guess Nervilette and Cloran's parts. You gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that also that as soon as I appeared on the stage, the trial may
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your courage. Only the...
Thank you.
As for you, traveler, I suppose your role was to keep me distracted with you'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss before revealing yourself as my prosecutor once we'd arrived onto the stage. Oh? Is that so? It's fine. It matters not. What's done is done. The stage is already set, so there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial through to the very end.
Sir Prosecutor, please allow me to pass. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission to share with you during the trial. According to her,
Huh? Charlotte wanted to give us something? Oh, so she's here too! Oh, let Paimon see. Isn't this... Wait, then that means this document is a perfect timeline of everything. So in other words, we can refer to this anthology of evidence every time we want to use something from our journey as evidence for an argument. Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, all right?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duels you took part in at the Opera House. I didn't think that you'd wind up getting to the bottom of the case I'd been following all this time. I guess you could also see... You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duels you took part in at the Opera House. That's one... I didn't think that you'd wind up getting to the bottom of the case I'd been following all this time. I guess you could also... This is the first time Monsieur Nervillette had a difference of opinion with the Oratrice. Even the Hydro Archon can't figure it out. A Fatui Harbinger. She's an extraordinary person. Her instinct must mean something. The fortress of Meripede was almost destroyed in a single day. That I didn't witness that scene personally will always be a source of professional regret, I think. According to Monsieur Nervillette, both Child and that whale should have been in the primordial sea at that time. I nearly lost my awesome friend Navia. To be honest, that still gives me shivers. The words of someone as extraordinary as a witch can probably only be truly understood when something's...
The prosecution and the defense are both in position. The trial shall now begin.
Oh, come on, Nervillette. There's no need. Just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offenses. As the defendant and the lead actress of this of course, it is only natural for humans to struggle to understand the actions of a...
That's true. But my charge here is unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the...
Wait, what was that? Lady Furina's a fraud?
Hey, I came here thinking that we were going to try the Hydro Archon for forsaking her duty.
Charge accepted. Lady Furina, do you plead guilty to the charge? Lady Furina.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalor, otherwise known as Furina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine, could be...
Yeah, even though Lady Furina can be rather eccentric, isn't it going too far to doubt her
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure, Lady Furina can be super irresponsible.
I have cause to believe that common sense will prevail in this case. Many of the members of the audience have known me as the Hydro Archon. See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the God of Justice that you will not have to face trial for making a...
An argument with near impossible odds, huh? You have to not only refute Furina's claims, but also...
Well, I tried to give you the chance to surrender. And if I was not the Archon,
First of all, you may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you to naturally possess.
Who gave you that idea? Was it the knave? You'd sink so low as to use a harbinger's words against me.
A curse? I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally, but in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your
Neverlet sensed it too, huh?
Lady Furina is actually a human?
Well, it is true that it's extremely difficult to tell humans and gods apart.
Well, don't start celebrating too early now. Even if I have... Besides, everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of For centuries, manifestations of my authority have One need only to turn their eyes towards the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal in this...
That doesn't sound right. Paimon doesn't think this clue... You tried to reference the Oratrice. But weren't you as confused as all the rest of us when the Oratrice declared Child to be guilty with...
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the gods are naturally difficult for...
Lady Furina, I believe a reminder of your current circumstances is while the court is in session, the principles of justice and the law must come. You will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charges if you continue to withhold vital information against the rules of the court.
I never thought you'd use that kind of
That was no trick of rhetoric, Lady Furina. I've merely reiterated the rules of the...
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty, nor instead of having been created by you, the manifestations of
the real Hydro Archon. Well, now you're real. It is true that I did not know why, but the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally. And you can't argue that just because a divine creation is flawed, that the god...
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we won't be able to produce proof that she has no power over the Oratrice.
My power as an Archon. There are...
If that poses a concern, I'm prepared to extend my protection.
You don't need to go that far.
Aren't you the Hydro Archon? Or is it that...
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons derive their power from the faith of the people, and thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with energy for their day.
Isn't that a huge...
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power? Can a god with no power...
Seems like nobody's buying Furina's excuse.
Hey, come now, everyone. I'm still the same Furina you knew, right? The one that's... Please, you've got to believe me.
If what the prosecutor said is true, she really has committed a grave offense.
Did she deceive all of us? And all of our parents and grandparents too? And all of our...
Enough. That's enough. Tell me then. If I'm not the real... If you have no evidence of another Hydro Archon's existence, nor can you find anyone who can back up their...
Wow, she came up with yet another argument. How can we refute her now? doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound... that... It has been established that all Fontanians can...
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right...
Miss Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court.
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson. As everyone knows, a massive flood struck the area not long ago, taking many... including those of some of my closest... So, Miss Farina, would you dare to touch some of the seawater? If we are to believe that you are indeed the real Hydro Archon, touching the seawater would have no effect on you. But, if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, nobody wants to see any more people dissolve. I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler path of admitting...
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years. I guess her...
If Lady Farina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontanian like all the rest of us. Would she really dare to try?
Lady Farina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution, as it falls outside the realm of standard court...
Well, of course he had to tell her that, but refusing to...
She's just staring at the water without saying a single word.
What's going on? Is she really...
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Farina, you may...
What?
Hey!
I'm fine! Look at me, everyone! Will you believe me now? I really am your Archon!
Miss Siegewin? If you're present, Miss Siegewin, please come forward.
Siegewin?
Don't be nervous. It'll just take a few seconds. That should be enough.
Please announce the results of your evaluation.
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Farina was displaying symptoms of She was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected is the same as...
Thank you, Miss Siegewin. Lady Farina, you may...
Oh, wait. What did she just say? I didn't get dissolved!
Well, considering your tendency to run from your problems, we did originally prepare a direct sample. However, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated enough to dissolve an actual human. We don't want anyone else to lose their...
Yeah, so out of regard for Farina's life, you secured a low-concentration sample and asked the head nurse... It's a great thing that the direct sample wasn't actually used. Farina...
I can't believe... You... Listen to me, everyone! Please don't give me such cold and disdainful looks! Think about it! How can you conclusively prove that an Archon can't also, if I was really just a human, why would I dare to just put my hand in the... Please, everyone! Anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your Archon!
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway any...
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway him until he's too stacked against her now.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Furina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Furina is guilty. We shall now turn to the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale to render the final... According to the judgment of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale...
Well, what's wrong? What's the Oratrice's verdict?
No, the Oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct, then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus: to be punished via the death sentence. The death...
That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was just a...
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court. And it's been given to the very person we've...
Furina's been sentenced to death by the Oratrice? We just wanted to use the trap.
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's... Is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been...
Yeah! Even Fauché wasn't sentenced to death by the Oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
Indeed. Not only is Furina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial, but now... the Oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the High...
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fréminet! You finally made it. I assume this means you've...
Any mission Father assigns to me will always be top priority.
First prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged...
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. But has the trial already concluded? Then... doesn't that...
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fréminet. Please allow me to review the... Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates. I would like...
So what do you see? What is it?
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to...
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Furina. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kind of talking about?
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates. However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to...
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other three... Stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her Does that mean that Fontanians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. But if Oceanids can turn into humans, the second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But the heavens still... This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the original sin and the third slate shows the Hydro Archon seeking into the seas? That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was just a question of when and not if. That doesn't sound
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women and the first stone slate tells us that long ago, the Hydro Archon used her power. This might be the reason that Fontanians can
That doesn't sound quite... That doesn't sound...
Perhaps what is about to take place, the true sin of the Hydro Archon and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia, has
That doesn't sound...
It's not as simple as falling in. When Navia fell into the sea, the stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontanians to dissolve if we hadn't dealt with it in time.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in... The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The stone slate's contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together... it now, so but then it feels like we're going to have to...
Let's hear them.
Incredible! Linny, did you...
We're not real humans.
All Fontanians were originally created by the late... The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vachette... Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty.
The Hydro Archon's true sin?
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese.
Yeah, isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain. Did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden information using a different power source. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. If every...
Well?
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontanians and the sin of... In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon has not one to give in. She eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontanians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race, and thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine...
So
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing.
Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin...
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontanian.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact. A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals, they have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicts the nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. Instead of being the literal element, you may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the third, that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the... Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as...
What should we do?
No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled.
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will...
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions. About the fourth slate, you probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the prophecy was about. However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could in fact only be a small... As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered... This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the disaster.
That doesn't sound...
It was both dream.
If we're talking about a true culprit that could only be that thing inside the primordial sea, right?
The truth, the original sin,